Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a special edition of The Game Changer. This is the best and worst of wrestling in 2017. I am indeed your host, Nate the Effing Great, being joined here by the Major Q Dawson to my Basil of Baker Street, Mr. Max Beatty. How's it going, good sir?
I'm doing good. Really, with that comparison, though?
Okay, maybe I am Dawson, you're more Basil, but...
I can deal with that, but no, I'm doing pretty good tonight. Getting close to the end of the year. I mean, 29th, tomorrow's 30th. I mean, this has been a long one, though, this year.
It seriously has really been a long one. Of course, I've mentioned the favorite movies I've had this year, and of course, Victor Bell and I did a podcast about our personal highlights throughout the year, which were pretty numerous. One thing that I definitely wanted to get through before we end of the year was a best and worst of wrestling, and this includes all of wrestling, you guys. This is not going to just be one of those deals where we're just talking about WWE. No. We're talking about wrestling as a whole, so that includes New Japan, Impact Wrestling, a little bit of Ring of Honor here. We'll have some Lucha Underground because Max and we love nothing more than to talk about Lucha Underground. I mean, come on.
I don't know what you're talking about. I could go the rest of my life without talking about it. He's complete lie. I can't. No. If I could mainline it like a drug, I would.
And then we'll conclude it with the discussion about WWE, which, there's going to be quite a bit to talk about, but we're going to save all that for the end. We're not making WWE the main focus on here. So let's kick it off. We're talking about when you first talk about 2017, definitely one of the main things that really stands out is the rise that is New Japan Wrestling. They have done absolutely amazing in this year alone. And one of the reasons why it's been so absolutely amazing has been because of the trilogy that happened between Kenny Omega and Okada. 3 matches in which everybody is just deeming probably matches of the year, have been super hyped, super excited. All 3 of these matches just instantly gratifying. Oh my gosh, it's just hard to even describe these matches in just mere words.
Oh God, right? New Japan. I would honestly have a hard time picking out anything in New Japan Pro Wrestling, especially this year, that I would even constitute as something bad. But I mean, my God, God damn, the Okada match. I can't even, man. I mean. People always say New Japan is the kingdom of strong style, and take a look at this series. You're fucking wrong. They're pretty much beating each other half to death, but damn. The strikes, the in-ring psychology, it's fucking perfect.
It's just absolutely beautiful, the story that was being told between Kenny Omega and Okada. And the fact of the matter is, it wasn't like a 50-50 series where they're just like, oh, this person wins one, this person wins another one, and then this person wins it all in the end. No. First matchup that happened at Wrestle Kingdom this year was won by Okada. Then they went into a 60-minute draw, and then finally Kenny Omega got his win back a little bit later on in the year. Just, again, like you said, absolutely amazing storytelling, great booking from the promoter that really had these matches going on. And it just was, oh my gosh. I think that one of the best matches was definitely the second one, I believe, because the storytelling just there alone of Kenny Omega and Okada just pushing each other to the limit, pushing each other to the brink. The story where Cody Rhodes was getting ready to throw the towel in because Kenny Omega looked absolutely winded, and then as soon as he saw the towel, he's like, no, I'm not stopping right now, and he just comes like a bat out of hell and just it's like a second gear in him. It's like, geez Louise, is there a wonder why Kenny Omega is probably one of the best wrestlers in this year alone, and probably going to be one of the hottest free agents when he's done with Japan? Oh my God,
Cody has to be one of this year's just straight up MVPs. Good Lord, man was everywhere.
Yeah. Of course, another thing I want to mention before we move on, the storyline where Kenny Omega won the first ever IWGP United States Championship which a lot of people deemed it to be like predictable, but at the same time it was like, well, his matchup where he won it, he was getting a run for his money, so at least it was one of those things where it's like, oh, it's obviously going to go to Kenny Omega. It turned out into a, oh my god, this Kenny Omega might not win this. And they went to the end, it's like, you know what? We saw it coming, but it was in a good way, totally fine.
Yeah. Just because something is predictable doesn't mean it's bad. I mean, yes, it can be. I mean, you don't need to look much further than WWE, at least 50% of the time. But predictability isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's all in how you execute it. If you can tell a good story, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you watch a superhero movie, you're pretty damn much guaranteed that the bad guys are going to lose and the good guys are going to win. But if it's well told, and then it's well told, who cares?
Yeah, definitely. I agree. The other thing that you definitely mentioned was the fact that Cody Rhodes has indeed been on fire just all over where he's been, whether it's in the UK, whether it's in Japan, whether he's in the United States. He's definitely had something about him that has been untampered and untouched by WWE, and obviously it's shown quite a bit. I mean, his matches, I should say, with Christopher Daniels for the Ring of Honor title, absolutely amazing. Everything that he's done with the Ring of Honor title, everything he's done in the independent scenes, and everything that he's done with the Bullet Club, jeez Louise, it's just been gold, 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 and there is no way that you can say that Cody Rhodes definitely doesn't deserve his, comeuppance this year.
Oh, God, definitely. I mean, I did think that whole, oh, guys, hey, look it out, I made a championship ring, and it's the literal Ring of Honor. That didn't need to happen. That was the thing that didn't need to occur. I was not okay with that. But that aside, Cody Rhodes was just the indie MVP.
He really is. It's just absolutely amazing that WWE never really gave him more either creative control or more time in the ring to really just establish himself as a star. Because honestly, right now, if they would have told me back when he was in WWE before he did the Stardust gimmick that he was going to be bred as a future world champion, would have been okay with that. They went to the Stardust deal. It's like, yeah, no, it's not likely that they're going to do that. And now it's one of those situations. It's like, why didn't they do that? Why didn't they put a world title on Cody Rhodes before he left? Honestly, I can understand probably why, because then they would be like, oh boy, we made a big mistake, didn't we? It's like, yeah, you kind of made a big mistake now, because now Cody Rhodes is one of the most talked about wrestlers in the world today. And you let him go because he wanted to be Cody instead of Stardust. Wow, good call. Good call.
Oh yeah, good call. 3, 2, 1, fuck the Revival.
It really became something amazing. And again, that was just another one of those things that definitely really stood out for Cody this year, was that, other than his wrestling, all the stuff he did with the Elite, with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, which, trust me, we're going to talk about their deal in just a bit. He just finds gold with everything that he touches. He's really doing, his family legacy very proud. And I know that, his father, Dusty, God rest his soul, is looking down on him with a huge smile on his face and saying, yep, that's my boy. Changing wrestling one day at a time.
Oh, yeah. And I know this is kind of jumping to WWE a little bit, but just as an additional little aside that says, this was a pretty good year for the Rhodes family. Clash of Champions, Goldust coming out and performing as Dustin Rhodes. Like, this whole year for the Rhodes family, just, Dusty's looking down and going, you know what, I have some damn fine boys.
Yeah, I definitely full-heartedly agree. I remember watching a little bit of that matchup where Dustin's dressing up like Dustin Rhodes, as you mentioned. He had a little bit of like the polka dots, and he had the classic gear on. It was just really good to see that. And a lot of people were saying, well, why couldn't you have booked Cody in this deal? Because wouldn't that have been something nice to do, since we're honoring, Dusty Rhodes? I guess WWE is just like, yeah, we could, but he probably is too busy with everything. It's like, you're just making excuses, are you? No.
Honestly, Cody probably would have been down for it. Like, Cody probably would have been, okay, this is, it's honoring my dad, it's honoring, WCW legacy, my brother's getting to be himself. I think he'd be willing to put his personal issues with WWE aside for one match, one night, to do that. And I kind of, there's no doubt in my mind that WWE never even thought about calling him up and being, hey, Cody, would you like to do this one night only thing for us? They never even considered it, and that is a fucking shame. I mean, it was, from what I heard, it was still a pretty damn good show, and the whole thing with Dustin was just fantastic, but I think if Cody had actually been able to show up for that, if they had actually contacted him, I think it would have been even more special,
Yeah, I definitely do agree. Speaking of WWE, they definitely had their hands full a bit with a cease and desist, which they brought against the Young Bucks, because the Young Bucks were continually doing the classic, DX Suck It, as well as the Too Sweet from NWO. Just one of the more... I want to say that it's one of those things where WWE tried to take a shot at the Young Bucks, but then they're just kind of like, okay, we'll stop doing that, but then, we'll just start breaking out new merchandise and new gear, really just take this whole entire deal and turn it into a positive. And I think that WWE did a little bit of a misfire there, where they're just thinking, well, this is going to, help us more than anything. It's like, yeah, no, you basically helped the Young Bucks become more popular than anything right now. And they're probably just rolling in coins, just saying like, thanks WWE, you made our lives even more better. And Vince is just thinking like, fuck.
Plus, it's not like it's going to really stop much of anything. Like, when they go over to New Japan and do stuff with the fucking Bullet Club and Kenny Omega, they throw it up all the time anyway. It's just... come on. And plus, if they post like a video on Facebook or Twitter and they're just like bullshitting with their fans, they can still do it there, because then it's in a non-monetary sense. Which, given the way the feedback loop between the fans and indie wrestling is, it winds up being monetarily good for them in the long run. So, you could argue it like slows it down for them. It feels so fucking petty, though. WWE, this big, massive fucking corporation, throwing out this cease and desist over a fucking hand gesture.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk a little bit more about WWE when we get to that, and trust me, we're going to have quite a bit to discuss. In fact, we do have a couple comments that will be addressed by some of the fans I mentioned on Facebook, that, hey, if you wanted to mention your best and favorite or least favorite moments in wrestling this year, definitely send a comment and we'll put it on the air. And we do have a couple that we'll definitely address. And one of them does regard the next topic here, and that being our good old buddies over at Anthem, Impact Wrestling. So let me give everybody a little bit of background history from my point of view, and Max, and maybe you can add a little more from your point of view. For the longest of times, ever since I think it was AJ Styles and Sting, they both left TNA Impact Wrestling, I thought that they were just on borrowed time. But to my surprise, they actually found a way to surprise everybody, to just succumb all the odds, and just really
cling on to life.
Yeah, they were just continuing going, and they were still going strong, in all honesty. Last year's Bound for Glory, I remember watching with Joshua from Pro Wrestling Off Topic, and we watched the entire event, and we thought, you know what? They still have something special. They still something good, because the wrestling was good. The storytelling was actually very practical. I think we only had issue with like one match, and that was it. Other than that, everything just worked out fine. And then when it came to this year, it was like,
that's so much.
Yeah, it's basically like it's like they're basically on this thread, and there is just a raging fire underneath it, and this thread is somehow holding on, even after being cooked for 365 days. It's like, what is going on?
At this point, every time I get reminded about Impact Wrestling or I see something about it, I just keep picturing that scene from Toy Story 3 where they're all riding into the incinerator, except I'm like, the aliens ain't gonna come and help you guys. Them little green men ain't here. What are you gonna do? Like, Bound for Glory Glory this year, just holy shit. Oh my god. And I'm sorry, I know he was a big part of Bound for Glory, but Alberto Del Rio. Oh my god. Every performance he had in Impact was just so bad. And it like culminated. It like started with fucking Bound for Glory, and that entire show just, oh, it's a big debut. Crowd is silent. Crowd is booing faces, cheering heels. Every single match could be an installment on Botchamania. I'm just, oh god, what are y'all doing?
Well, I would go even a step further and say that I think that when they really kind of shafted themselves was back even further when they had Slammiversary, because some of the matches on there, they were good, but oh my god, the fact that they decided to put both belts, the Impact Wrestling belt as well as the Global Championship belts, on Alberto El Patron, just made me think, wow, why? No. I understand that you guys are having like a partnership with AAA and with a lot of these guys in Mexico, but you don't have to appease them all the time. I mean, again, this is jumping the gun towards WWE. You kind of look at what they did with Jinder Mahal. It's like, well, we're going to really establish our Indian fan base by putting, the title belt on Jinder. And it's like Impact tried to do the same thing with Alberto, and it's like, well, honestly, we can say that Jinder was a better champion than Alberto because at least, Jinder didn't do anything, controversial with his, on again, off again, girlfriend, wife, whatever it was going on between Alberto and Paige. And then, of course, like you said, definitely was almost like the writing on the wall at Bound for Glory. His really weird promo, and he tried going to heel, and then he was a part of the main event. Yeah, and then he decided, hey, I'm going to be involved in the main event. It's like, why? You don't deserve it. Oh, we're going to have a program with you and Johnny Mundo. I'm sorry, Johnny Impact. I hate you.
It's like, for crying out loud, like, you have the deal with AAA, and they obviously have deals with Lucha Underground. He's called Johnny Mundo in AAA and Lucha Underground. You can't tell me that there's some sort of copyright issue there. You just wanted to put a little spin on it. It's just, no, honey, no, stop. I mean, people have been, it's gotten to the point this year where everyone's like, oh, hey, there's another person who left Impact Wrestling. I'm like, I can't really say I'm surprised or blame them. Hell, when the Hardys left and went to WWE eventually, because, they, did some indie shit too.
Right.
But when they went to WWE, it's like, people have been complaining that, Woken Matt hasn't been doing that much, but I'm just like, we at least have Woken Matt, plus they had that, tag title run, and they're coming back at WrestleMania. It's like, looking back at their Impact career, the height of it kind of was the whole Broken Hardys thing, and it's like everything else I can see why they left, and that's just two examples. I mean, they have been hemorrhaging talent for this whole year. I can't even really think of anything that I heard from Impact that was good in 2017.
Yeah, we'll try to name some positive things in just a bit, but there's a lot of things that definitely came out. And as we mentioned before, having the partnership with AAA, two incidences definitely came out of that at the expense of Impact Wrestling. The first being this is just sad. The Jeff Jarrett incident where he was performing completely drunk off his ass, and he was just completely gone. You could definitely tell in the ring he was just not at all in the right state of mind. Coming down to the ring, throwing like enchiladas or burritos or something like that. Again, just I guess I can understand where he was trying to get the heat, but he was just not in the right state of mind. And thankfully, he went into rehab, which is honestly kind of also surprised that it was a WWE sponsored rehab facility. But at the same time, He's in rehab, but he's been doing really good. He's definitely getting better. Great to hear that, and definitely applauding every day that Jeff Jarrett is starting to, get back to being sober and get back to being there. But unfortunately, it came at a price where Impact and GFW said, "Yeah, we don't want anything to do with you anymore." That just, you're done. You're done. They just said, "Off with you. Go on. Come back with us. Come back to us maybe if you're feeling a lot better." That was just sucky because it seemed like everything was going in a good direction because they combined GFW and Impact Wrestling. Jeff Jarrett had that big speech at Slammiversary, and it's like, okay, we're kind of going in a good direction. At least, we don't have to worry about Dixie Carter or anybody like that. But then that happened, and it's like, well, back to square one, I guess, which is negative 500, so...
I mean, is it even square one at this point? I don't even think they're on the board anymore.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And the other incident, of course, that happened was the incident that involved Sexy Star and Rosemary. Just, boy howdy. The whole incident, for a lot of people that are still not caught up on that, was basically, it was a four-way women's matchup, and Sexy Star and Rosemary were involved. Rosemary got a little bit hot under the collar because she thought everybody was out to get her. Rosemary had nothing to do with that, but for some reason, Sexy Star decided to put Rosemary in an arm bar and crank out it so tight that it actually dislocates and tears her shoulder up. To which we hear backstage stuff about Sexy Star basically leaving after the match was over, but then having Konnan call her back, and she doesn't even apologize to Rosemary, which makes definitely, for you and I, we talk about this, it's just kind of like, well, so much for that being a, role modeling gimmick. I mean, we talked so highly about her when she had that No Mas match with Mariposa and Lucha Underground, and we talked about how, she's definitely good. She's almost like, this, almost like new generation, Wonder Woman, where she's definitely going to be a role model to the kids, and then this happens, and all the fallout that happens, it's like, well, so much for that theory.
Yeah, that kind of got flushed. Yeah, that was easily one of the worst things that happened this whole damn year.
Well, yes and no, because it definitely did harm Sexy Star more than anything, but for every dark cloud, there is a silver lining, and that silver lining was Rosemary's response. She actually holds no hard feelings towards Sexy Star. She definitely kind of was out of the loop of what was going on, and she was very professional when she talked about that incident. She admitted that it was very scary, but it's one of those things where it's like, it's done, we're moving past it, I got other things that I can be worrying about. And for me, that was one of those things where it's like, okay, I know that WWE probably doesn't get the gimmick, but for her to go out and actually be this mature and be this, positive, it's one of those things where it's like, well, how come you guys have not signed her yet? Because I think she'd be a really good spokesman for WWE, especially for the women's division. It was one of those things that I listened to this interview and I'm like, wow, you took me completely by surprise, Rosemary, and you're making me more of a fan of you every day.
Yeah, that was pretty classy.
She is indeed probably one of the major highlights for Impact Wrestling. She had that great matchup with Sienna at Slammiversary, so that was one positive thing. Another positive thing, and this actually comes from, ironically enough, Joshua Yeager, who said that the match of the year for this year was the tag team matchup that happened at Slammiversary, which was, oh boy, be prepared to start smashing whatever you want, Max. The tag team match that featured Josh Matthews and Scott Steiner taking on Jeremy Borash and Joseph Parks.
Done. Nope. Life is canceled. Fuck it.
I literally said to him as soon as I saw that, because all I had to do was just read like the first bit of the description of what the video was that he sent me, and I just said, the only reason why I will accept that is because of the appearance of Shark Boy, James Mitchell, and Scott Steiner having the line of, I want to run these fat asses over. Just that alone made me think, okay, that at least gave me something positive to think about when it came to that tag team matchup. I mean, granted, we had to see some very cringeworthy stuff, but it did have like a bit of the broken hearty feeling to it, which is kind of nice. And if Jeremy Borash was the producer behind it, dude, WWE definitely needs to hire that dude because he knows what he's doing when it comes to making things really good.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. But at the same time, what the fuck?
Right.
I feel offended on some level. I feel personally attacked by this.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It was one of those things where I thought it was kind of funny. And plus, like we said, we get another bit of Scott Steiner randomness because why not at this point? So the other thing that I could think of as a positive here, well, actually two things that I could think about, and then we could probably move on from this. One of the positives and / negatives of this year for Impact was the final match as well as retirement of Gail Kim. And for those that definitely do not think that she deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, any Hall of Fame for that matter, you're completely out of your mind because what she's done for Impact Wrestling, bar none, she has definitely created. She was one of the women that, in my opinion, definitely brought out the women's revolution or the women's evolution, whatever you want to call it. She was one of those women that was definitely the pioneers that really made people start looking at women and be like, oh, wow, they can actually go. I mean, case in point, Gail Kim versus Taryn Terrell in a last man standing match was absolutely amazing. Every single title reign that Gail Kim had, great. Her promo to basically end out her career was absolutely great because she basically made it more about the knockouts than about herself. She was saying, like, yes, I'm leaving, I'm retiring, but I'm looking forward to seeing, what the knockouts do when I am done. And honestly, it's one of those things where it's like, I can't say anything bad about Gail Kim. She really does an amazing job, and she's just one of those women that I look at and think, you know what? I'm hoping that if any young, female wrestler is trying to aspire to be anybody, I'm hoping that they have the right attitude and the right kind of mindset that Gail Kim had.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely agree with that. Gail Kim is a living legend in terms of women's wrestling.
Yeah, she's definitely going to be very hard to replace, if even. The other thing that was a positive from Impact Wrestling was the reign of Mr. Eli Drake, one of the most charismatic as well as very gifted talents in the ring, finally getting his, basically comeuppance of winning the global championship for Impact Wrestling. Now, granted, some of his matches have been only lackluster, but that's only because of some certain people interference. And no, I'm not talking about Chris Adonis. I think he finds a way to still make the matches worthwhile watching. But, of course, I'm talking about the Bound for Glory match where a Patron got involved. But, honestly, I'm totally fine with Eli Drake being their world champion. He was a definitely TNA bred, Impact bred talent.
Yeah.
And he definitely moved up the ladder and made it to that top. So he's definitely one of those guys where it was unexpected, but it was one of the moments where it's like, I'm glad. I'm totally glad. He definitely deserved it.
Oh, yeah. I can definitely agree with that. I can definitely see where you're coming from on that.
All right, so I think we talked enough about Impact Wrestling. We probably talked a little too much about Impact Wrestling, but
yeah, we talk too much.
well, like I said, this is the best and worst of wrestling this year. So try to find some silver lights in the world that was Impact Wrestling, and we found a couple. But I mean,
We found a couple.
Hey, a couple's better than none, which is more than we could say about certain other companies. But we're not gonna talk about them.
No.
So let's talk about the one organization that you and I have definitely been completely psyched about. And the fact that we're getting another season of this wrestling promotion just says we're just happy boys in a candy store. That, of course, being...
Happy joy, happy joy.
That being, of course, Lucha Underground.
Oh, there's the magic words.
Yep. All in all, comparing this season to the previous 2 seasons, which you can check out on Netflix, #cheap plug. All honesty, let me get your opinion first. How do you think that this season compares to the other 2?
Oh, it's tough. Obviously, season 1 is the classic that got us got the whole thing kicked off. Really set a strong precedent. Season 2 was, in my opinion, even better, despite the fact that there were times when it got kind of convoluted with the storylines. And sometimes they played it a little too serious with some of their angles. But even then, it was still an even better season. Season 3 felt for me like it was in between the 2. It was still fantastic. I still loved it. It wasn't necessarily as convoluted as season 2 was. It was a bit more streamlined, a bit more focused. But at times, in my opinion, it felt like it was going by a little too fast in terms of the stories and the feuds and angles. But overall, it was still excellent. And I know there's probably a lot of fans out there. They're gonna disagree with me. Oh no, season 3 is the best one, or oh no, season 1's the best one. But I think it's kind of nice that we have not just a wrestling show, but just a TV show in general, where the argument isn't, oh God, which of the seasons don't suck. It's which season is the best. I mean, I can think of a handful of bad matches and a few episodes that were definitely weaker than the rest of the show, but I can't even really think of an overall bad episode at all. And then, of course, the season finale this year was just so great. It was fucking so great. And there's a lot of blood in this season.
Yeah, you definitely hit the nail on the head when it came to just how Ultima Lucha 3 was definitely the crown jewel of this entire season. One of the things you definitely do mention is the fact that there were some times where storylines kind of were slower, and some episodes were just a little bit weaker than some of them. But like you said, there was no way that anything was called like a bad episode where it was just like, oh God, this is an episode that's so horrible, I'll never watch this again.
Exactly. There wasn't anything like that.
The thing about that is that one of the things that I can appreciate with Lucha Underground is that they will sometimes have one match on every single show where it's always, gotta watch this, gotta watch this, gotta watch this. And, some of the other matches are kind of like, well, that's okay. That's fine, because you don't want to really just make your, audience just feel spent after every single show. You got to give them at least time to, breathe and recuperate. And I think that Lucha Underground does a fantastic job of doing that, where they just say, like, okay, we're going to do this beautiful thing, we're going to even do another beautiful thing, then we're going to kind of take it easy just a little bit, so that way everybody can just slow down, everybody can just calm down, and they can actually breathe, because somehow that is a very important thing when it comes to life. In fact, I can see Dario just saying, let's just calm down just for a bit, because scientific research has indeed confirmed that breathing is very beneficial to life. It just seems like it worked out so well. A lot of the things that happened this season, we see Matanza as the champion throughout the first few months. I believe, wasn't this the season that they introduced the Dario Dial of Doom?
Oh, yeah, it was. This was, but you got to remember, the most original concept in all of wrestling, Dario's Dial of Doom.
See, there's no way I'm going to argue that. It's just one of those things where it's like,
the most original concept. He's such a bastard, but when he pulls shit like that, it's like, I can't even be mad. It's like, I love you, man. You're like this lovable asshole. I mean, then there's those times when he literally feeds people to his brother head first. But hey, he's a lovable psychopath. He's an enjoyable murderer.
Yes, indeed. I do agree with that 100%. The storylines that just built around everything, where they involved, Matanza, Rey Mysterio, El Dragon Azteca, building up storylines between Jeremiah Crane and Mil Muertes was absolutely amazing. Like I said, during the Cueto Cup, which was definitely one of those events that I was very interested in seeing how they would do it. And then they showed the brackets, and I'm like, oh my god, this could be a possibility. This could be a possibility. This could be a possibility. And then as soon as I see them doing Mil Muertes versus Jeremiah Crane, I'm like, oh my god, they're actually doing this. I'm totally okay with this. And then the match happened, and it's like, oh my god. The only match, Jeremiah Crane definitely flourished in that tournament as well as throughout this year alone. And it all happened because of the fact that he was feuding with Mil Muertes. He had a great match, I think, with it was either Dante Fox or I think it was Killshot, if I'm not mistaken. And just everything that built up into it, and then going into Ultima Lucha 3, holy cow, just the event itself was one of those things where it's like they are trying to take our souls and just leave our bodies with just nothing but a smile on our face. It's basically like the what am I thinking? I'm thinking and you might have to correct me on this. I think it was during the original Batman with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, where a lot of times when Jack Nicholson as the Joker would kill kill anybody, he would still have them like smiling or something like that. It's one of those things where it's like, that's basically what Lucha Underground's trying to do to us. They're trying to kill us while we still have a smile on our face.
Pretty much.
But in all honesty, yeah, and it even gave us one of the most brutal matches that I have ever seen in the, geez, I want to say almost.
They always say like, "Oh, good God, they left a part of themselves in the ring." No. Those people did. They did this time. Very literally.
Yeah, oh my God, Dante Fox versus Killshot in the. Oh man, basically their version of 3 Stages of Hell. I'm trying to remember how did they word that again? It was the oh man, it's like the Stages of War. I'm trying to remember exactly what the name of the matchup was that they had. Oh boy, man, it's one of those things where it's like I need to know this because the fact that it's one of those matches that were really good. And like we mentioned, it's very brutal. It's one of those things that's just jaw-dropping, awe-inspiring, that you're just like, please, just stop the match. Please don't kill each other. I want to see you guys, fight more, but please don't truly actually kill each other. Come on, just please don't. And they ended up almost killing each other. It's like, thank God the match is over. I am spent. It's literally to that point where it's like, I need to go and just pray for a little bit and have, basically God have mercy on my soul because I may have just witnessed an actual attempt at murder. But it's one of those things where I don't regret it. So it's like you're spending 3 hours next to your bedside just praying, just saying please forgive me for what I just witnessed. And then, of course, it all capped off with the departure of Prince Puma and the new era of darkness, Pentagon Dark, winning the Lucha Underground Championship in the end. Geez, what a way to end that. And hey, your boy, the Hunter, he came back, King Cuerno.
That dude ran around in a cowboy hat, and the scene with him in the pickup, I'm just like, fucking... King Cuerno is legitimately the most underrated motherfucker in that entire promotion. I don't even care what anyone says. King Cuerno deserves to be Lucha Underground champion, and then will, probably get murdered by somebody, because that's just how Lucha Underground works. But still, King Cuerno is back. He's in season 4, and everything is fine.
Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of the Lucha Underground team. Everything is awesome because they're making us live our dreams. That's how you put Lucha Underground on the map. Alright, so we go from that to talking about NXT. We'll go right into that. In all honesty, most of the things I didn't get a chance to watch NXT because I've been really busy with a lot of the things that have been going on outside of work life and stuff like that. But from what I've seen, geez Louise, the stuff that they've done with NXT has been absolutely amazing. And this is one of the first few times that I have actually been very amazed at the list of champions that have held the NXT Championship in this year alone. Because I'll break it down like this. It started off with Samoa Joe. Then they had the show in Japan. So Shinsuke Nakamura brought it back. Then Nakamura lost the title to Bobby Roode, who would lose the title to Drew McIntyre, who would lose it to Andrade Cien Almas, who, little did I know, was going to have probably one of his best years in all of NXT. I mean, last year he was kind of like lukewarm. Some people were just kind of like, he's okay, he's fine.
Like last year he just kind of existed. This year, holy shit, man.
He existed. You know?
He existed and then some. I remember when they first put the belt on him, like, a bunch of people were like, like, they kind of had the same reaction they did to when Jinder won the world title. And I'm just thinking, okay, and I'll admit I wasn't completely on with it. I mean, I kind of thought, I don't know about this. I mean, Almas? Okay, where's this gonna go? Oh, this is gonna go everywhere I didn't think but secretly hoped. Okay, that's fine. I'm fine with this. This is fucking great. like 2016. I mean, NXT wasn't doing the best. They were doing pretty good, but not up to their usual standard, in my opinion. This year started out a little rough, but they definitely turned it the fuck around.
Oh, definitely. I definitely do agree with that. And it definitely was still going steaming hot because they had Asuka as their champion all the way till NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3. And there was still even just one of those situations where it's like there was never a bad Asuka match that I could really think of while she was down in NXT. Even if she basically just caved somebody's head in and just covered 1, 2, 3, it's like it worked.
When Asuka caves somebody's head in, it's still great because she probably actually committed murder. I'm just convinced WWE has an actual cloning facility somewhere in Connecticut, and they're just like, shit, Styles or Asuka or Nakamura killed someone again. Fire the cloning vats.
Oh man!
Like, I mean, it hasn't been as good for her on the main roster. I think they try to pull the 50-50 with her matches too often. Like, I get it, you gotta make the other person look like they're at least competent and can get some offense in, and I don't necessarily have a problem with that or anything, but I think it's just a testament that, she goes undefeated, like, without having a single bad match in NXT. She gets to the main stage in WWE, and, like, her worst moments are still at least okay. Like, all I'm saying here is, like, there's a reason why I'm calling her for the Women's Royal Rumble match.
Hey, I'm definitely going to be agreeing with you on that. It's just really amazing, like we said, and basically they really made her shine with Ember Moon when she had that feud with her. I think it was at NXT TakeOver. Oh man, I want to say it was either Chicago or if it was Texas, Houston.
I think so.
I can't remember which one it was. The first one that they had, and then they had their great match at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3, which definitely just tore that match a new one, and was definitely one of the hottest, if not one of the best, women's matches of the entire year. In all honesty, Bliss can do many wonderful things, but nobody can put on a really good matchup like Asuka and Ember Moon did. It's just one of those things where it's like, I yield to both your greatnesses. I yield to you both. Please, for the love of God, do not kill me.
Please don't kill me.
Yeah, also we had a pretty good run for the NXT tag division. I mean, you had Sanity getting built up. The Authors of Pain, they've actually really impressed me quite a bit. The Revival, hashtag DIY was good. Now you got, the Street Profits, which are probably some of the more interesting, but also probably one of the more over tag teams so far. And then, of course, you got the current reigning tag team champions, the Undisputed Era, which makes you think, it's like, oh man, we're definitely going into that ROH takeover deal, aren't we? Yeah. I'm totally fine. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. Just give Adam Cole the belts, and we'll call it good. We'll just call it good. Hell, even give Adam Cole the UK title for that at this point.
You could just give Adam Cole the UK title. Oh man, they've gotta. This whole invasion with the Undisputed Era has just been friggin' great.
Yeah, loved every single minute of it. And again, NXT really providing quite a bit. And then we got, I don't know if I would call it a speed bump, but you and I both kind of have an agreement on this. When they first announced NXT TakeOver War Games, we were just like, okay, this is happening. What's going to be going on? Then they showed the rules, and it's like, oh, boy, this is probably not going to end well, is it?
Like, but why would you do that?
Yeah.
I don't understand. What have you done? I don't like this. No.
I full-heartedly agree. That was one of those things where it was just like, I don't know. I mean, the don't escape rule, otherwise your team forfeits deal, I thought that was ingenious. I thought that was awesome. But, yeah, when they told, like, oh, well, every team's going to be coming in after a certain period of time, it's like, why? That makes no sense. And I really thought about this today, was that how cool would it have been if they would have had, two guys locking in like a submission maneuver with like two other random opponents in the ring, and then that's when the timer goes off. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, you got two different opponents in there being locked by two different submission maneuvers. Who's going to come out and who's going to either make the save or who's going to basically assist with that submission deal? It would just be one of those things where it's like, that mystery there would be bar none amazing. Kind of like what they did with Elimination Chamber, like where Jericho locks in the walls of Jericho, and then either Shawn Michaels or Chris Benoit locks in the crossface, and they have that timer going off. Something like that. If they would have just had that reenacted and they'd had kept the original rulings with War Games, where it's like every, okay, so 5 minutes passed, we have another person entering into the fray. We have one person entering into the fray. Then after every minute, got another person, and then another person. Just to have those kind of moments there would really have made the matchup better. But instead they decided, well, after a few minutes' time, hey, here's one team, here's another team, here's the other team. Yeah, we're just going to have like basically a 30-minute fest of, spots and maybe some wrestling here and there, but nothing really too credible. And I'm not saying that the match was horrible. It was good. But it just felt like they took away so much from War Games.
Yeah, and I agree. It was a solid match. It was. It was not a bad match, but... And I'll admit, maybe it's, the fact that, WCW, Smoky Mountain, a lot of that stuff was what I started out with. So when I hear War Games, I expect a certain type of match. I did not get that type of match. It's one of those why did you even bother kind of deals, in my opinion.
Yeah, well,
I mean, I do legitimately think it might have actually been better had they just not called it War Games.
No, I definitely do full-heartedly agree with you. I know also that they want to do another one next year because it was so successful this year. And people are saying like, oh, it's great, and there's still that random people like us. We're just like, It was okay, but why couldn't you have just stuck with the original concept? Please, why must you do this to our match? Why?
Just stop. It's time to stop. This does not need to continue.
I swear to God, if they pull out like a deal where they try to rip off Lucha Underground with like Regal's Wheel of Politeness, I will literally just be like, Max, do you still have that gun? Yeah, why? I need to borrow it for a minute.
Oh, by all means, go ahead.
It's just one of those things where it's like, come on, don't kill the Dial of Doom for us. It's an awesome concept. Lucha Underground definitely deserves it. Just leave it alone.
Yeah, just it's like I said, it's time to fucking stop.
Yes. All right. So now that we've kind of jumped around it from here and there, let's talk about WWE. All in all,
here we go.
All in all, I thought they had a pretty decent year, considering this is basically their first full year as a fully brand splitted deal, because it was just about a year ago that they actually did the brand split deal, and we were all just like, oh boy, this is going to end well, isn't it? And we talked about that, Fruit Roll-Up Championship belt, which is somehow one of the most relevant championships ever right now, aside from, no, I'm wrong. That's the second most relevant title. The most relevant title right now is the Intercontinental title, in all honesty, because of one person only, that being The Miz. 2017 was definitely a damn good year for The Miz. I mean,
fucking right. Hell, did you hear what happened with him? Actually, Rolling Stone named him 2017 Wrestler of the Year.
I did see that, and I said it's like he deserved it. Everything that he's done this year has just been pure gold. His wrestling ability from like Rumble to Elimination Chamber was great. The feud that he had with Cena, even though it should have went the other way, the stuff that him and Maurice did, just mocking Cena and Nikki, was just absolutely amazing. And hearing the story behind it was really great. I just remember thinking, that's genius. I mean, people make it seem like Cena's a robot anyway, so it's like, why not just embrace that? Why not just make it go above and beyond? Say it's like, Nikki, I want to ask you a question. If honestly he was sounding like a speaking spell, then I would have been like, you know what? Give this guy an Oscar, but he's not in a movie. I don't care. Give this guy an Oscar, damn it. He deserves it.
I mean, seriously. Miz, I've always been a fan of The Miz. I've always liked The Miz. I've always thought he was entertaining. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, in years past, he definitely wasn't what I would call the best in-ring performer. But he always was able to back it up with, at least some degree of character and promo skills. Except for that one time, I think back in, 2013 or 14, where WWE turned him face, and it's just kind of, no, do not want. And then, of course, WrestleMania 27. But regardless of any of that, he's been getting a lot better over the years in the ring, and this has been his best wrestling year, I think, and just the sheer amount of creativity he's displayed, the sheer skill on the mic, the way he's gotten so much faster in the ring. The dude is just actively progressing right before all of our eyes, and he probably hasn't capped out yet. He earned that Rolling Stone nod. That's all I'm saying.
Full-heartedly agree. He really did.
Give this man a slammy.
Give this man a slammy. He turns out to be like the slammy superstar of the year, and everybody just going absolute ape shit. And Roman's just in the back.
God, I would lose my mind because it would stir the shit with a bunch of fans, and he would just use that and the promos. Oh God, he'd probably have the Miz Taraj come out with him and set up a pedestal and set the Slammy on a pedestal next to him or something. Oh my God, also the Miz Taraj has been friggin' awesome. I mean, Bo Dallas has got to be one of the best background characters in TV history at this point, and I'm sorry, Curtis Axel and his neck brace deserve an Academy Award. God damn it.
Oh man!
When he popped it off, I was faking it, and then after the match, he's hurting, and Bo Dallas is helping him put it back on. I'm just oh my God, it's not even fair. It's too good. It's too good.
It's one of those situations where we know how talented Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel can be, but Miz was just saying you know what, you guys aren't really using these guys. Why don't you just pair them up with me and we'll have a little bit of fun with it. And like you said, one of the best moves that probably Miz has ever done is just having those two be a part of it and just really, God, helping out the Miz every now and then. But he also helps them out because they finally get TV time and they get to show the case of their talents. And it's hey, you remember that Curtis Axel was an IC champion? You remember Bo Dallas was a former NXT champion? Nope. Shame on you. Just shame on you.
Exactly.
So, yeah. What were you going to say?
Nothing. I kind of lost my train of thought on that.
So, another thing that definitely does stand out when it comes to 2017, and people will definitely disagree with this, but I really think that one of the things that definitely did stand out, and what I think was probably rivalry of the year, and some people will probably disagree. They'll probably say it was Kevin Owens and AJ Styles. I thought that the rivalry of this year was Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns, in all honesty. Those two guys...
Oh my God. I completely agree.
I mean, the match at Fastlane, a lot of people were not pleased with the outcome, but for me it was like, well, I guess I can kind of understand. But in all honesty, it didn't really hurt Braun Strowman too much, because then he just came back and just said, like, yeah, I'm just going to basically murder you. And
like, in all due fairness, being crushed to death in a fucking dump truck didn't stop Braun Strowman. It just pissed him off. One of the reasons I agree with you that this, if it's not the best rivalry, it's at least one of the best rivalries 2017, was it really felt like they fucking hated each other. I don't know what it was about the performances and the way they went at it, but it felt really genuine, and it felt like they were trying to, go at each other and really win a fight. Like, I mean, you couple that with, like, the trilogy of matches that Braun Strowman had with Big Show, or as I like to call them, the Hoss-Pocalypse trilogy. I mean, Strowman, he's another one that really exploded this year. I mean, the last couple weeks with this shit with Kane haven't been doing him any favors, but then again, they haven't done anyone any favors. I really loved that one sign that someone held up at ringside that said, "Don't you have mayor stuff to do?" It's like, don't you though, man? Like, do you have to? I mean, I really want Braun Strowman versus Brock Lesnar. Said we're gonna get like this triple threat thing, and I'm like, you do you, WWE. You do you.
Yeah. In all honesty, let me kind of propose something to you. This is kind of like a little bit of fantasy booking right here. Can you imagine if WWE just throws us for a complete loop and has Braun Strowman win the Universal title against Brock and Kane at Royal Rumble? They have the matchup between Brock and Braun Strowman at Elimination Chamber. Braun Strowman wins. And then we get Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. And I know people are going to complain that, oh, God, we're giving Roman Reigns another...
I'm not going to complain. I was actually literally just about to say Roman wins the Royal Rumble. Well, actually, I'm thinking about it now. Roman's out right now. Is he going to be available for the Rumble?
I would think that he would be available. I didn't know if he had, like, an injury or anything like that.
Like, I just know he and I know, didn't Dean get hurt?
I know Dean Ambrose got hurt. He had, like, some kind of injury with, I think, his elbow or something like that. And
yeah.
He's going to supposedly be out for maybe 9 months.
Ah!
I know, That
is, and they were just really starting to get deep into the Shield reunion, too.
Yeah.
Well, at the very least, I hope Roman can come back. And like you said, it's going to take a lot of people off. But if they have the guts to put the title on Braun Strowman, those two are fucking magic. I mean, have Roman, actually have him legitimately win it. Don't take him out of the match for like 20, 30 minutes and go chill in the back sipping water. Actually have him wrestle and win, and have him come in, like, say, midway through maybe. He doesn't need to come in at the beginning and win or some shit like that, but have him win, and then the two of them just basically have the hossiest, most destructive, just throwing hands thing in the main event of Mania this year. I would be so completely okay with that.
Yeah, that could definitely work. Otherwise, I know that, like I said, Raw's going to be having an Elimination Chamber. Maybe they can have him win the Elimination Chamber match and go on to face Braun Strowman at Mania, because if anybody deserves to be the Royal Rumble winner, I'm just going to say this. I mean, it deserves to be somebody who has strong style, but I mean that could refer to anybody really. I mean, let's face it. Who would want to see King of Strong Style versus Phenomenal One at Mania for the WWE title? I mean, come on. Who would really want to see? I would, because I think that would put a lot of prestige on the belt again.
Mm-hmm. I think the only thing I would want just as much as that, aside from Braun versus Roman, would probably be Asuka versus Paige for the Raw Women's title.
Oh, yeah. That would actually be really good.
And I know Paige, she also got hurt. I think something with her throat, but her being taken off of appearances is for a much shorter period of time. Like, it's only for a couple of weeks. So, I mean, she'll probably be back before she'll be back probably before the Rumble even happens. So, I would argue that, you know, she winds up getting herself entwined in the women's title picture, picks up the belt. Asuka wins the Rumble in January, and then if I can at least get that match, I'm good. I mean, it's going to be really sad watching Paige get kicked into 1,000 tiny pieces, swept into a pile, and pinned, but I'll live.
Yeah, I
swear to God, if Asuka's first defeat is at WrestleMania, I will. Don't play me like that. Do not. Don't do me like that.
I was just going to.
And don't pull that shit where it's like, oh, she won the title at WrestleMania. Oh my God, drops it the very next night. I will set my own house on fire at that heat of my rage.
So
the couch will start burning. The whole thing. All of a sudden, my landlord will come up from upstairs. What's that burning smell? I hate everything.
I was just about to say, was this going to be to the point where you were going to threaten to nuke the moon again?
No. We're not there yet. We're not there. Might nuke Antarctica.
No more frozen ice caps anymore. They are all gone.
But what about the polar bear? What about the penguins? Fuck the penguins.
AEW does not need any work anymore. Oh man, yeah. Definitely, I think the women's division on both Raw and SmackDown have kind of been very lukewarm compared to, as we've mentioned before. I think that, you know, Lucha Underground would definitely have a little bit more stuff that would overpass the stuff that WWE's done. NXT definitely.
That's just because their women's roster's not all that big. Like, in total, between the two shows, collectively, it's not that big. And then they have to divide it up even more between two shows. And it kind of seems like with one show, SmackDown, they have a tendency to just copy whatever Raw does. So it makes everything feel kind of samey. And when you've got rosters that are that divided and already being that small, and the problem with both shows also is that they both have candidates that either have held the belt, are holding the belt, or, you know, conceivably could hold the belt, and they're the only ones you can see really being, you know, like a champion. Like, it's almost to the point of, why aren't they champion now? And I would say that the two big standouts, one on each show, would be Charlotte and Asuka.
Yeah, I definitely do agree with that. And
Asuka's the best female wrestler in the company. I personally would argue Charlotte's a very close number 2. Dear God, give me that match. I want it. I don't even need a story. Fuck it. I don't need a story. What's the story? They want to kill each other. Okay.
Oh man, please let's not make Ric Flair cry, because that's one of the few moments where it's just like, yeah, I can only stand to watch an old man cry so much, and Ric Flair just knows how to really just take it home.
I realize that, but just picture Charlotte hitting that delayed top rope superplex, and then Asuka just kind of rolls out of it, pivots around on the balls of her feet, and just smash kicks her in the face. Hey, there was I don't remember what match it was, but I think it might have, I don't know if it was back in her days as Kana, or if it was like some WWE house show, you know, where she's Asuka, but she kicked someone so many times it tore her kick pad off of her boot.
Oh, jeez.
Like, she's sitting there and you can see it like sliding down a little bit, and then on the last kick it just kind of says, "Ah, fuck this, man, I'm done with life," and just jumps off of her leg. Like, fortunately, she gets it, you know, back on, and she didn't kick the poor person in the face without the kick pads on. But it's just, Jesus. Even her own wrestling gear is not ready for Asuka.
Oh man!
One of these days, she's gonna be fighting on the outside. She's gonna miss a kick and just knock everyone in the front row backwards out of their seats.
Oh man, I'd pay good money just to see that. Another thing that we mentioned with the women's rosters as well as, women in WWE. Thankfully that they're changing that this year, because now we're not going to have a big four, we're going to have a big five going into 2018. One of the reasons why is that they're doing a dual deal with Money in the Bank, because this past Money in the Bank, it's been okay. I mean, the men's ladder match was pretty good. We saw Baron Corbin win it. It's like, oh, hey, we're going to probably see Baron Corbin win the title. Nope, Cena's going to make him look like a chump, and Jinder somehow pins him. Great. That was a good waste of a Money in the Bank briefcase. And then we have
that was fucking shameful.
Yeah. Where's the New Day when you need them? Just multiple shame. Seriously, that did nobody any favors. It didn't make Jinder look good. It didn't make Cena look good, and it definitely made Corbin look bad. I mean, nobody came out of that in any way looking proper. It's just, what was the point? Oh, let's talk about another what was the point. Do you remember the fact that they had not one but two women's Money in the Bank ladder matches this year alone?
Yeah, and I'm just going to say it. The second one is the one that we should have had on the pay-per-view, and the first one just should have not fucking happened.
Yeah, I agree again. It's just...
And I heard, I've said that to some people, and they're like, oh, but you don't like Carmella all that much, and she won in the second version of the match. I'm like, yeah, the difference between the two is she actually won. They didn't have a dude win the first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Plus the first match was just, even before Ellsworth got involved, it was kind of a dumpster fire anyway.
Yeah, I'm not going to
At least in the second one, it looked like everyone was actually trying.
Yeah, it actually looked like people were actually really looking like they did their best, but yeah.
Speaking of which, Carmella still has the briefcase, right? She's like fucking a black hole to me, I swear to God. Does she still have it?
She unfortunately does still have it, and they've made real no mention.
If she holds on to it until Money in the Bank, it's null and void. That's how they always roll it. You got that 1 year to cash it in. Maybe they'll just do that. Maybe they'll just have Carmella sort of forget that she has it, even though she lugs it around. And then all of a sudden it gets to Money in the Bank, and she's just like, all right, I'm going to cash it in at Money in the Bank. It expires today. And then the camera just slowly zooms in on her, and while in the background someone starts playing "Hello, Darkness, Smile." If they were to do that, I would be everyone would be like, "Oh, she let it expire. What was even the point? That was a waste." The point was the most epic burn in WWE's modern history. Oh, but they completely threw away Carmella. You say that like it's bad. I'm just getting mean right now.
Oh, man.
Fuck Carmella.
I literally can see that, but I imagine her also having that same face that, do you remember when Maria and Dolph Ziggler were somehow a thing? And then Dolph Ziggler just dumps,
yeah.
and then Dolph Ziggler just dumps her, and she has that face of just total anguish and defeat. I imagine Carmella having that same face, and again, like you said, the "Hello, darkness, my old friend," and it just the screen just turns to black and white.
Pretty much,
oh my God.
I would be, and it doesn't even have to be oh, they're playing it like it was a movie and it's the soundtrack. No, just someone has their computer out and is listening to it on Spotify. I don't care.
Oh my God.
She turns around, why are you playing that? Then they just look at her, are quiet for a few seconds, mood music. She just storms off. Whoever it is just grinning like an idiot. I don't even care who it is. It could be one of the background tech people or something. I don't give a fuck.
It's Arn Anderson. He's the guy behind the shock.
Arn Anderson, that man, going back to Clash of Champions, he proved he still had the best damn spine buster in the business.
Yeah, this is true. And he was also apparently the man behind the Shockmaster when he came back in WWE. So let's just all breathe that in just a little bit. Just a little bit. Not too much. But just one of those moments where it was oh, Arn, you ingenious bastard. Man.
Oh, Arn.
That's Arnie.
Shut the fuck up.
Oh, man.
Get out of your own house.
Right? It just frees in the Everglades of the misery that you brought to everybody. I hope that you end up like Jack Nicholson in The Shining, just frozen out there.
Oh, God.
So, another thing that definitely has been brought up, and I'm actually citing a lot of these with our good friend over at Wrestling with Regret, Brian Zane's list, is that one thing that he definitely put out was that there's a positive and a negative that came from the tag team division this year. I mean, tag teams that have broken up, such as, Golden Truth, nobody cared. Enzo and Cass, people are okay with that. Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho, everybody openly wept at this, especially when they added, the, what was it, My Heart Will Go On from Titanic into that deal.
Don't talk about the Festival of Friendship, man.
Oh, man. Festival of Friendship.
The wounds are still real.
Right. Then we lost the Pipe Bros. And I'm trying to think, I thought there was maybe like one more tag team that broke up this year, but I could be wrong. Oh, no, that's right. One of the most very, very like shocking tag team breakups, hashtag DIY. I actually almost forgot about that.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Damn.
Yeah, one of the most shocking moments of this year alone. Just, it seems like, oh, well, they're going to end the show, and we see the logo there. Next thing you know, Tommaso Ciampa's like, yeah, I'm going to kill you, basically. And it's like, oh my God. And
like, holy shit.
And the promo that he had on the next NXT was absolutely beautiful, and it makes me want to see Tommaso Ciampa back again. I'm hoping that, he's recovering very well, and I'm hoping that maybe we get that rivalry not at a TakeOver show. I want that to be on WrestleMania. I want that to be on that card. If they just have that as like the opening match, I will be happy. But it only goes on for like 10 minutes. I don't care. It's a match that needs to happen, even if you put it on.
But like, I don't know. I thought for WWE, I thought for the most part, I thought we had some pretty standout teams. Like the Bar at their rise to prominence. Everybody that has ever listened to me, knows I love the Bar. The Usos have been fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Uso Penitentiary, straight up, just holy shit. Even though they haven't been, exactly winning too much, they've been entertaining as fuck. The Fashion Police, Tyler Breeze and Fandango.
Yep.
New Day is always fun. When they did the Invasion deal and the lead up to Survivor Series, I wasn't too thrilled with that, as many people know. But overall, New Day was pretty good. Recently, things have gotten weird with, like, Seth Rollins and Jason Jordan winning the tag titles. Like, the fuck? Somebody was drinking that night.
Yeah. Oh, and it's real kick in the balls when you realize what the original plan was. They originally wanted to do Finn Balor and Seth Rollins. And I'm like,
fuck off.
Basically.
What do you even do? What? Oh, God.
Apparently,
at least they could have done something like make a joke of, hey, you wear a leather jacket. That's all black. We wear black SWAT gear. Hey, I mean, come on. You did that. You got the Balor Club. You honorary Shield member or something. No, we get Jason Jordan and the continuation of the, please notice me, Daddy storyline, and just fuck the fuck.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. I looked at my screen and went, but why though? Like, just why?
Yeah.
I mean, neither one of them is a terrible fucking wrestler, obviously, but fuck Jason Jordan right now. I'm sorry.
It's literally one of those moments where it makes you feel bad for any time that we may criticize worse teams. I mean, they had, Dude Love and Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold, just like random pairings, which, didn't make any sense. But now it's just like, I regret anything that I've criticized about those men because now we've just reached a point where it's like this is a random pairing that I could give two bits of a rat's ass about.
And here's one thing that that's been bugging me about this whole Jason Jordan storyline this whole time.
What's that?
Okay, so he's basically, his best friend in the world was his former American Alpha teammate, Chad Gable.
Correct.
So if they were going to pull this whole him begging his dad for stuff, why didn't he at least try to get Chad Gable brought over to Raw?
Because he's a selfish prick, I guess.
I mean, I guess, but they keep... I don't know, the vibe they keep throwing off with him is that they're trying to push him as this baby face that's just desperate to please his famous dad, but he's really unlikable right now. And then, I mean, I kind of feel like they're trying to mitigate that somewhat by pairing him up with Seth, since, you know, Seth's got a crowd-popping moveset and the Shield are essentially faces right now. And I'm just like, no. If anything, what's going to happen here is you're going to have the crowd going apeshit every time Seth tags in, and then as soon as he tags back out, the crowd is just going to either start sitting on their hands or they're just going to start booing, because even the crowd is like, the crowd gets really loud with their hate for Jason Jordan.
Yeah, I definitely do agree with that. I don't know. I really don't have a good answer. I really got nothing to comment on that other than the fact that they picked the wrong guy. It should have been Chad.
Back the wrong horse this time, guys. Sorry. Pack it up. Everybody got drunk. Move on.
We're trying, dude. We're really trying, but it's so hard. Just saying that right now. I do want to backtrack just a little bit because this was a comment that our good friend Chad Knight, he actually mentioned this as one of his favorite moments in 2017, and that was the announcement that they would do the Women's Rumble matchup. My response to him was, "Grr, fair points," and he asked me, why would I say grr? And I said I'll explain to tonight. So I want to give my point of view on this, and if you have anything you want to add on, by all means. So one of the reasons why I had that initial response was because of everything that went down when the announcement was made. Few issues there. And by a few, I mean I could make the list of Jericho look like basically an amateur.
I know where you're going with this.
So first things first, it was announced by Stephanie McMahon, who had absolutely nothing to do with the Women's Revolution. In all honesty...
Oh, but you forget, according to her, she pretty much started the Women's Revolution in WWE. You know, she's the big alpha bitch heel, but anytime there's credit to be had, her character turns into a babyface, and I've already had my rants about how I personally think she's the worst character on screen in WWE, so...
Try not to go down that route again, but it's going to happen.
That's a rabbit hole I will never get myself out of.
Yep. Second thing was, of course, having the women kind of line up in like a weird fashion. It's one of those things where it's like they literally could have had something else done for that. They should have had, like Absolution on the outside. They should have had maybe the baby faces on the inside. They're trying to, basically look tough and blah, blah, blah. And just then having the cap off of where she makes the announcement and everybody's doing like the yes, yes, yes. It's like, oh, we're one big happy family because, we're getting what we want. Honest to God, come on. That doesn't bode well with me because honestly, let me just take you guys back to 2004. Back when Eric Bischoff was still the general manager and they had that whole, questionable deal about what they were going to do with the World Heavyweight Championship. So Eric Bischoff decides, we're going to do something at our new event called New Year's Resolution. And he says, we're going to put it on the line inside the Elimination Chamber. And the reaction that those guys had, like Edge and Triple H both just look at him like they're being put on death row. And of course, Chris Benoit just has that look of like, okay, I'm totally fine with that. And it's just one of those things where as soon as he kept announcing the names, it's just one of the things where, again, where it's just like, don't be doing that. No, just don't. The reactions that they had, they were justified because Edge believed that he deserved to be the world champion. Triple H wanted to try and, squeak by and be like, I just want my belt back because it's the right thing to do, but I'm just going to kind of leap over the fact that I'm basically begging you to, give it back to me. just one of those things where it just made sense. The way that they handled this was an absolute atrocity because it basically breaks all form of kayfabe, which I know people are going to say, but kayfabe's dead. Tell that to Awoken Matt Hardy for a minute and try to convince him that, because...
No, not even just Woken Matt. Tell it to him, tell it to Bray Wyatt, tell it to Braun Strowman, tell it to The Miz. I mean, some of the best, and in some cases the worst, acts that are really popular, regardless of promotion, work because people are willing to suspend their disbelief and get into kayfabe.
Yeah, I definitely do agree with that. So, just how they presented that was the main reason why it's like, yeah, great, we're getting a women's Royal Rumble. What's the problem? Well, they're basically all looking like they're just going to, like, all hug each other and kiss each other on the cheek and just they're all best friends. Like, weren't you guys just not just beating the crap out of each other, like, 3 minutes ago? And now somehow it's a bipolar disorder where it's like, oh, we're totally fine. We're besties now. It's like...
Well, yeah, it's like every time that Stephanie McMahon comes on screen and has a bunch of the women's roster with her, they all have to shut off their characters, shut off their personalities, and just get in a little circle jerk around her and worship her. I think the worst part of it for me is when she actually said, if there was ever a time for a yes chant, now's the time. I'm like, bitch, that is supposed to be organic. No. Like, that, it felt so goddamn cheap. Like, it was this big announcement. This is, like, I know WWE's had this, like, fetish for first time ever for, like, last year and a half to the point where it gets really annoying. But this one actually feels like a big deal. This could have been huge. This could have been an opportunity to announce a Women's Royal Rumble. This could show off all the different characters in it that are going to be competing. It would have been great. Instead, it becomes a glory-hogging, spotlight-hogging centerpiece for Stephanie, who just sucks all of the fucking enthusiasm out of the room. It's just... oh, God. I don't even care that she was trying to be a babyface in it. Just, that's fine, be a babyface in it, but put the shit over. Also, again, though, I do have to throw in there, why is it her, and why does she care when she hasn't been on the show in how fucking long now? I bet you barely show up, and now you're coming over to, take credit for, fuck you.
Yeah,
like,
it just...
The only thing that I hated probably more, or at the very least was just overall worse this year for WWE, was just, for me, Randy Orton in his year-long attempt to continuously one-up himself with the worst match of each month.
Huh. Yeah, you do make a good point about that. I actually did not realize.
And I've had a couple people like, oh, what are you talking about? WrestleMania, House of Horrors.
Yeah.
Enough fucking said. Like, every, pay-per-view match he had, at the time, I'm like, well, this is going to be the worst match of the year. Next month, whoops, never mind, this one is. Next month, whoop, oh, damn, Randy, come on, man. You can only pile so much shit on one plate, brother.
Yeah, it's just really amazing how Randy Orton is just getting away with so much, but... I guess, he's one of the top guys, and he created that new ruling called the Randy effect, where it's like, hey, I've got basically these two things against me. Oh, I'm going to do something really nice. Okay, we'll drop one against you. Yay! Yay! I'm actually a part of something important. No, you're just really good at sucking Vince McMahon's dick. Shut the fuck up.
You're not cool, Randy. You're not cool.
Can we bring Carlito back just to spit in his face? Yeah, he'll get RKO'd in the end, but... just that one brief moment where Carlito just comes in, has a huge apple, just spits in Randy's face, and just call it a day.
I'd be fine with that, I guess. Randy Orton and Stephanie McMahon. I don't think there's too many people in WWE that ticked me off more this year.
Yeah, well... yeah, that's really all I can say. So one more positive thing, and then we'll kind of do a quick fire round of, just basically who we think were superstars of the years and blah, blah, blah. One thing that definitely did was a great positive throughout this year was indeed the, actually, one minor one that I'll talk about, and it's always going to be happening every single day because it's Rusev Day. It's Rusev Day. Because Rusev is awesome and he deserves to be more over than what he is. He's getting reactions from the crowd. Everybody's happy with him. We're totally fine with that. But what I was going to say was the one thing that definitely does shine out that a lot of people tend to forget was how good of a year it was for Neville. And people can fight me on that, but here's the way I can put it. I'm going to make a laundry list right now. Royal Rumble, he wins the matchup and wins the title from Rich Swann. It was a great matchup. He had that tremendous matchup with Jack Gallagher at Fastlane. He had that great series of matches with Austin Aries, going from WrestleMania to Payback to Extreme Rules. Great. He had a pretty good series with Akira Tozawa. And then, of course, ending it off with him losing to Enzo Amore, which we're not going to go into too much depth about. But up until that point, Neville was one of those guys that was definitely the top heel. And dare I say, he was probably almost as good of a heel as The Miz was as the Intercontinental Champion. There was nobody
that... I'd agree with that. Homie called himself King of the Cruiserweights for a reason.
Yeah, definitely. He basically beat everybody that was in front of him, and he ran with that ball every single time. And now the question is, will we see Neville return in WWE, or is he done? So let me ask you that question first, and I'll kind of give my answer. That my thoughts on that. Do you think Neville's done?
I think he's done with WWE. I don't think he's done wrestling. He's probably going to go. I could see him going back to being Pac and going to the Indies or Ring of Honor or wherever. But I personally think he's done with WWE.
Yeah, I think I might agree with you with that. I would really love to see him come back, maybe as a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble. Hopefully get like a really good run. But unless they really treat him better than what he has been, because like I said, he's one of the guys that definitely made Raw so much better than what it really deemed to be. And they mistreated him. And they're reaping what they sow right now. And so many people are just saying the comments of, well, if they treat him well, because he walked out, wouldn't that really send a bad message to the people in the locker room? Yes and no, because I can understand the point of they're coming from, but no in the sense of that Neville was always one of those guys that worked his ass off, and he provided so much. So the reason why he left was because he was frustrated with the way he was being treated. So if he deserves to have the claim of saying like I deserve to be in the bigger title picture, he deserves it.
I agree with that.
If he wants to make that claim, then let him have that claim. Let him run with the ball. Or if you just think like, no, we're going to treat him like everybody else, then fuck you. I don't care. It's one of those things where it's like he can go over, and honest to God, if he goes in the independent scene and he joins like the Bullet Club, he would be one of those guys that might even be as big as Cody Rhodes was. And honestly, I just had a thought. Cody Rhodes versus Neville on the independent scene. Please tell me you do not want to see that.
Oh my God. Imagine if they were both just allowed to fully cut loose over in New Japan.
Ooh, Neville versus Okada. Please and thank you.
God, that'd be fucking great. But personally, like I said, I kind of feel like he's done because, yeah, he did have that great run with the Cruiserweight title, King of the Cruiserweights and all that. Go back to NXT. He's, in my opinion, one of the best NXT champions. This personally is how I feel. I thought his run was great. I thought his little partial heel turn towards the end during his feud/rivalry with Sami Zayn was fucking great. And then he goes up to Raw, and it's just okay. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it was a major drop-off, and there were entire periods where they were doing nothing with him. It'd be cool to see him come back. It would be really cool. I definitely would, welcome him back with open arms. I do agree with you that, having him just, come back and be treated well would not necessarily set a bad precedent in the locker room. But I just not seeing it happening.
Yeah, probably not. All right, so we are just about done with this episode of The Game Changer. But before we do, we're going to just do a little quick fire round of Basically, just nominations who we think are best of this year, as a couple of worst of this year. So I will basically keep it down to 5 of the best and 5 of the worst. So,
Okay.
all right, and this will be all of wrestling. So this will include WWE, Lucha Underground, NXT, blah blah blah. So let's start off with the obvious best superstar of this year. We'll start with you, Max.
All right. Well, if I got to go with 5 best.
Well, no. We're just picking 5 categories. We're just doing one for each one.
Oh, okay. That's a tough one. I mean, if I were able to do maybe do a top 5 or a who's the best from each promotion, best overall. Oh man. I'm gonna give it to. I know who I'm gonna give it to.
All right.
I think that best in terms of. I wouldn't argue he's the best in terms of in-ring performance, which is not meant to be a slight on this wrestler. This guy is fantastic in the ring, utterly fantastic. But I think what pushes him to the level of being number 1 for me has got to be the way his character was taken and developed, and how he worked with it. And for me, number 1 superstar of the year is Prince Puma. A close second would be AJ Styles.
Yeah, well, I will go with AJ Styles as my top. I just think that, despite the fact that, I would have loved to have picked either Kenny Omega or Okada, I just think that, when it comes to AJ, hey, they don't want none. That's all I got to say to that. So
and there's a reason why so many people call him the greatest wrestler working today.
Exactly. All right, next up we'll do the best tag team of this year. I'll go first, and I will... Okay, this is actually a little bit tougher than I thought it was going to be. I think I'll go with The Bar on this one. It's just very hard to deny the presence that they've had in the tag team division, and even though they had that loss against the Usos at Survivor Series, it definitely did not derail them in the instant. And even with this loss to Jason Jordan and Seth Rollins, they're still going to be the most talked about tag team quite a while. I think that 2017 belongs to The Bar.
Okay. Now, for me, with tag wrestling, it's going to have to come from WWE because, even though I watch Lucha Underground and I watch a fair amount of New Japan, and I do occasionally peruse the indies, for my tag wrestling, most of it does come from WWE. Oh, man. God, it would have to come down to either the Usos or the Bar. I'm gonna say Usos. The Usos, it's not meant to be a pun on their whole Uso penitentiary thing, but they had things on lock. They cut some of the best promos. They've been the most captivating and engaging in the ring, and they've had one of the most spectacular character turnarounds I've seen in recent memory, in at the very least WWE. So I think the Bar, again, would be a close second, but I got to give it to the Usos.
Hey, fair enough. I mean, Usos would definitely be my number 2. All right, so then we'll go into Best Woman Wrestler of the Year. Max, start off. Asuka. How did I know?
If it ain't Asuka, then... there's a little part of me that wants to say Paige, but she wasn't active enough this year, in my opinion, to throw her on the list.
Mm-hmm.
But if it wasn't Asuka, oh God, maybe Charlotte would be my number 2, but I got to give it to Asuka.
Hey, fair enough. My number 1 is going to be from Impact Wrestling. I'm going to be going with Rosemary on this one, just because.
Fair.
Not only does she have a good in-ring presence, but also just her character and everything she does in and outside the ring, just absolutely amazing. Close second would definitely be Alexa Bliss. I'm going to let you be the one that, is the good representative for Asuka. So it's like leave the future Mrs. Beatty alone. So.
And all I'm saying though, if Little Miss, I love you, Alexa Bliss. You're absolutely fantastic. And just as a little side mention, you and I have both mentioned Mr. Brandon Stroud. Well, he does a wrestling podcast that has one of the best names I've ever heard, McMansplaining. And he actually got to do a sit-down interview with Bliss and Nia Jax.
Damn.
And honestly, so much... I mean, like, I already loved both of them, but so much more respect for both of them after that. I recommend everyone to check that out. But despite that, I mean, I think Alexa and Nia would probably be on my list as well, but I can't see either one of them hitting the number one position.
Fair enough. All right, so we'll go into most shocking moment of the year. I'll start it off with this one. Right now, it's really a tie right now between Jinder winning the WWE title and DIY breaking up. But I think I'm going to go with DIY breaking up because it's one of those moments where, Jinder winning the title, left me speechless for a while. DIY breakup was one of those that just made me speechless for at least maybe 5-10 minutes, where it's like I'm processing what just happened and why this happened and everything else in between. It was very hard for me to just look at this and just think that was awesome or that was shocking or that was anything. I was just like, it's basically like a baby trying to learn his first word, trying to say something. Right. All right, so most shocking moments, Max?
Well, for me, the second most shocking moment, just something I know there were rumors, but I'm just like, up until it happened, I'm like, nah, this is not going to happen. So I was still kind of blown away when the Hardys returned. But for me, I think the most shocking moment of the year, the thing that just literally had me jumping off my chair and just staring at a screen, jaw hanging down to the floor, was watching New Japan Pro Wrestling, and, Kenny Omega's cutting a promo in the ring, and then all of a sudden, Chris fucking Jericho shows up on camera, and I'm just like my brain, I actually had to watch that entire thing twice, because my brain shut off the first time. I couldn't fully process what I was seeing. It was just, that's Chris fucking Jericho. That's Chris fucking Jericho cutting a fucking promo on Kenny fucking Omega. In New Japan, fuck. I smell toast. It's burning. I watched it the second time and I'm like, oh my god. Like, I know some people would probably say that they want a press conference they did where Jericho was doing an interview with a bunch of reporters and Omega jumped him. A lot of people would probably say that was a bit more shocking than just having Jericho show up. But I think just Jericho showing up and, cutting the first Alpha Omega promo, tearing the picture of Kenny Omega in half, declaring that, they were going to do it at, Wrestle Kingdom, and God damn, that was hype for a match that won't happen this year, and yet I was still, blown away. Holy shit.
Hey, I wouldn't disagree with that. That was a really good moment, and I was in that same spot, like you, where it was like, is this happening? We're getting Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho? Oh my god. And the build-up that has just been going on between the two of them, it's like, this is like Kevin Owens and Jericho, only probably infinitely better. Sorry, guys, but it's Kenny Omega.
Crazy. And what I fucking love is that it's so shocking and has been so well executed. I have heard zero complaints. In the back of my mind, I kept thinking, there's got to be somebody out there that's like, oh, but Jericho's starting to slow down. Because people have been saying that about him for the past 2-3 years now. But nope. There is just people, as soon as this happened, everyone who watches New Japan Pro Wrestling pretty much went, okay, we're going to get the match of the year for 2018 out of the way as soon as possible.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be the best match of the fucking year, but it's probably going to be in top 5.
Well, only one day to wait to find out. We got to wait until next week. Holy shit, it's next week. Jeez Louise.
I know, right?
All right, so finally we cap it off with the match of the year.
Oh my god.
I'll give you a little bit of time. I'll go first. I think that when it comes down to it, match of the year, in my opinion, has got to be Omega Okada 2. I think the fact that they went a full hour just the two of them just beating the hell out of each other, having the whole Cody element in there where he's about to throw in the towel and then Kenny Omega kicks it into a high gear, having the Kenny Omega hit his finisher, but only to have Okada put his foot on the rope. It's like, oh my god, this match itself is just amazing. And it's like, okay, it's about to be a finish, and time limit expired. Fuck, that was an awesome hour. If they would have went for a full-on hour Iron Man match, I'd be super happy. That would be...
Damn, I actually... There was actually a lot of really great wrestling, like, this year, and it doesn't matter what promotion, like, WWE had a good number of Match of the Year candidates, both in NXT and on the main roster. Lucha Underground it's like their goal is to have the best Match of the Year every fucking week. New Japan, of course, Ring of Honor. I mean, there's just,
Yeah. You had no argument for me. Yeah.
I gotta agree with you. I gotta give it to Omega Okada. It was just so fucking good. I pretty much agreed with every word you said. Although I will say this, for what I would probably throw out as my number 2, and I realize that since a lot of people really, for whatever reason, I mean, I guess I get why they hated this match, but my number 2 would actually be the Men's Survivor Series elimination match. I got so much goddamn enjoyment out of that. Like, on a pure wrestling level, was it, anywhere near Okada Omega? Oh, fuck no! On a pure wrestling level, it wouldn't, if I was gauging it on that objectively, Okada Omega 2 would be number 1, and the Survivor Series match would be, like, number 30. But there's just something about the pure entertainment factor for me. Especially the bit at the end where I was just losing my shit laughing as Braun slowly had the gears in his head turn and finally figured out what had just happened and then put the fear of fucking God into Triple H. I'm like, I can't hate this. I can't. So that's number 2. Number 1, we agree. We agree. Okada Omega 2.
Yes. All right, so let's just do the quick top 5 worst. Well, 5 worst for each category. All right, worst wrestler of the year. I think we both have an agreement on this, but I'm actually kind of curious. I'm going with Enzo. They're just because reasons.
Oh man, Enzo's been real bad. There's a lot of options this year though. Whew, man, there's a lot of options. There's of course Enzo. There's who else? Let's see. Enzo, Orton with his string of "What the fuck are you doing?" Oh God, it's really tough. This one's actually one of the hardest ones yet. I'm just gonna agree with you in terms of Enzo. Just if for no other reason than every time he's on screen, he just makes my blood boil, and it's not even because he's a heel. He's kind of a jerk in real life, and his character is he's hateable for all the wrong reasons. And he's just really doesn't have it in the ring.
You're going to get no argument from me. All right, we go on to the worst tag team of the year. Max, you got anything?
Ooh, worst tag team. Oh boy. Worst tag team. I mean, fortunately, there really haven't been too many egregiously bad tag teams this year. I got to give credit where credit is due. Fuck me. There's a part of me that really wants to say Seth Rollins and Jason Jordan, just because it's such a fucked mismatch, but worst tag team. As entertaining as they are, as much as I love them out of the ring, just the way they've been booked, the consistency of their booking, the way they've been losing. I hate to say it a little bit, but I gotta call it for Tyler Breeze and Fandango.
Whew, that is rough.
I mean, don't get me wrong, they've been entertaining. The Fashion Files are great, but you can only do so much to make up for any booking detriments or detriments in the ring. And both of those guys are good wrestlers, but once they step between the ropes, that's where WWE gets all their control back, since they very clearly have control over the Fashion Files segments. But once WWE sinks their claws back in, it just all goes to shit. So while I'm saying they're the worst tag team of the year, I am not saying that because of them. I'm saying that because of how the company they work for has treated them.
Fair enough. I have something along the same lines, but with a different company. I went with the Reptile Tribe in Lucha Underground because,
Really?
yeah, the thing about it is that they were really poorly handled. They really could have done something great with them, and I'm not trying to say that to piss off anybody, mainly, Cobra Moon. Please don't kill me, Thunder Rosa. Please, by the love of God, please don't kill me. I am hoping this does not affect our professional relationship at all. But here's the thing, is that the Reptile Tribe was definitely one of those things that it was supposed to be really something good, something great. And when they had the whole, turn with, Drago joining the Reptile Tribe, it's like, okay, this is going to be good. And then they did nothing. And then they still did nothing. Then Ultima Lucha Tres comes around. They lose their tag team titles.
I mean,
wow.
I don't know if they did nothing. I mean,
it really didn't feel like they did anything outlandish, is what I'm saying. I mean, I get where you're coming from with the Fashion Police, and I totally agree with you. But it's just one of those things where it's like they really didn't do anything that made them stand outish. That really set them apart from a lot of the other tag teams in Lucha Underground. That's just my opinion.
I can understand where you're coming from. I mean, and they had some really stiff competition this year. I mean, the Rabbit Tribe debuted this year, and you want to talk about memorable?
Right, that's true.
And standing out. Oh, what is it? It's an Aztec themed LSD dipped Alice in Wonderland wrestling tribe. Go on. And please, pass whatever drugs you're smoking my way.
Right. All right, so we move on from that to the worst women wrestler of this year. I think we might be in an agreement again, but I'm actually curious. Jeez Louise. I am going to go with... oh, man. Actually, it's a tie right now that I think about it. Because as far as, really horrible... The two that come to mind have been Lana and Carmella. I'm going to give it to Carmella just because, Lana, she still has time to learn. She's still kind of new. She's still kind of green. With Carmella, what's kind of her excuse? She's been wrestling for a while now. It's like, you've done nothing to improve. You had somebody help you win the Money in the Bank briefcase twice. Yeah. Poor booking and not really that good in the ring. Oh, she also does the super kick. Copyrighted by the Young Bucks. Young Bucks, I would get on that cease and desist right now. Just saying.
God damn it. We're actually in agreement with Carmella being the worst, but I will say this. For my number two, I mean... I agree too much with the whole Lana has potential argument to actually put her on this list. For me, the second worst female wrestler isn't on this list for character reasons. She's certainly not on it for in-ring reasons. You'll know why she's the second worst wrestler, in my opinion, at least female wrestler this year, as soon as I say her name. For me, the second worst is Sexy Star. I'm going there. I'm sorry. I don't want to get up on a moral high horse or anything with people on this one, but there's shit you don't do in this business, and physically legit going after someone like that that crosses way too many lines.
Can I change mine to Sexy Star now? Because
so desire. Lana can be your number 3.
Yeah, Lana can be number 3 at this point. All right, so I think the next part would be worst moment in wrestling for 2017. Like one that just makes
The entirety of the House of Horrors match.
Man, I had a feeling you'd go there, but
I'm just, God, what the fuck even? It has been months. It's been over half a year, and I am still going, the fuck did I just watch?
I mean, you're not wrong. It's kind of like they just ripped off the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house and just decided to add some weird little trinkets.
They tried to turn it into the final deletion, but they forgot one key important element of the final deletion. The final deletion and the entire Broken Universe isn't meant to be fucking taken seriously. It's the wrestling equivalent of a horror comedy show, for crying out loud. Matt Hardy and the Giraffe. I love it, but it's kind of like how it's kind of like how you love a great comedy or a sitcom. You think it's fantastic, but you're not necessarily taking it seriously because it's not meant to be taken seriously. What does WWE do? We're going to take it seriously. We're going to try to turn this into the wrestling equivalent of a psychological horror movie. And I'm just like, don't do this, guys. Don't go here. Don't go here. Multiple camera angles. Fucking the tractor that rolls by. The Halloween lights. Killing Randy with a fridge. What are we doing, guys? Like, on a sillier note, because it still involves one of the two men involved in the House of Horrors match. The second worst moment in wrestling in 2017 was Randy Orton at WrestleMania this year, walking to the ring on a giant sperm.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. And
Randy Orton was busting his ass. He just cranked out the worst shit of his career, and unfortunately, I feel like he succeeded.
Yeah, no argument for me.
I mean, he was on a warpath, and his target was quality.
Yeah. So, basically, to sum up my worst moment for 2017, I would say to summarize it would be like any moment that involved Alberto El Patron succeeding. But if I had to like key it down to like one moment, it definitely would have to be at that Slammiversary event where he beats Bobby Lashley and wins both titles. It's like, no, just no.
Actually, speaking of that, can I change my worst moment in wrestling for this year from the House of Horrors match to just all of Bound for Glory?
Might as well at this point.
Like, at least that was only one match. It wasn't an entire pay-per-view.
You're not wrong there. All right.
That being said, I think you know what my worst match of the year is.
Yeah, you're going with the House of Horrors?
It's kind of like a tie. It's either that or the WrestleMania match where Bray Wyatt used like a overhead projector to put bugs in the ring.
Oh, like, yeah.
Either one, really. It's not like, oh, which one is number one and which one is number two. They both tie for the shit spot.
Yeah, oh, God, that was horrible, now that I think about it. But I might have one that could be worse than that, and that was the Punjabi prison match between Randy Orton and Jinder Mahal. Remember that one where Great Khali somehow got involved and was like no point to it? There was like not even anything. There was just like, hey, we're going to capitalize on this. Like, nope, he's disappearing for one day. He's going to hold the belt up because Jinder Mahal doesn't obviously deserve it. I mean, he needs to remember. He's still champion, but we're going to have Khali hold it, like somehow make it more relevant. It's like, it's not more relevant. In fact, it probably tarnished it that much more.
That was just, oh, God. You know what actually made that match? You know what killed that match completely? Like, the final nail in the coffin for me was? Is when the Singh brothers were, like, on the outside, right?
Yeah.
And they're, like, I can't remember who it was that was, like, trying to climb over the first cage wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, because the other guy's, like, standing right next to the cage wall, and so are the Singhs, and I'm looking at this and I'm going, those holes are big enough for any of these guys to crawl through. Why are you even bothering with the gates? Why are you bothering trying to climb over shit? Why aren't the things just trying to climb through? It would be easy. They could just... That is where it just completely broke down for me. I was just like, oh my god, you could fit like 2 or 3 of me in those things. Come on, guys. Like, this match is bad enough. At least when you had like the Great Khali and the Big Show and guys of that size in that match, at least then it's like, okay, they're too big even for those gaps. Okay. But none of these guys are that huge. Just, as soon as I noticed that, I'm like, this was already bad, but that was the killing stroke.
Yeah, well, with 2017 coming to a close, we are going into 2018 with some excitement, and we're going in with some little bit of skepticism, but also some more hopeful thoughts. Everything is ending on a pretty good note for the most part. So, that being
said, we already know we got 2 big things to look forward to. First ever Women's Royal Rumble and Alpha versus Omega.
Yes.
Those 2 things literally are book-ending January for us.
Yep. I wholeheartedly
nothing else, 2018 is going to start off pretty hot.
Yep. Not going to disagree there. So for that, we're going to end this edition of The Game Changer. Of course, you guys can always check out Mr. Max Beatty on his Twitter at Agent Cooper 1989. Check out a lot of his tweets. They're actually pretty entertaining. And you can always follow us on Twitter at RealEffingGame, as well as on Facebook.com/Changing Up the Game. So with that being said, for Max Beatty, I've been Nate the Effing Great, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.